In the face of the good evangelist, John Humphrey Noyes would devote his life to brokering a fragile truce between treasures on earth and those in heaven. Perhaps only the collision of two such vigorously opposed natures as the saintly Polly Hayes and the carnal John Noyes Sr. could have spawned a compromise as brilliantly bizarre as John Humphrey Noyes, who would close this parental gap between spirit and flesh by claiming, among other things, that the sexual organs were the first and best channel of the life and love of God, and that getting salvation was a business, like getting a living. In other words, that spiritual and earthly pursuits were, in fact, one and the same thing. Young John was a thoughtful boy. As a child, he was fond of going to bed early because he wanted to think, and from the first, a natural leader. As his mother recalled in later years, "I can see him now marching off up the hill at the head of a company of his playmates, all armed with mullein stalks." Sent away to school in Amherst, Massachusetts, when he was 9 years old, John Humphrey sent letters home that reveal a boy seized by homesickness, but anxious not to upset his mother on his account. "Mama, I must say that when I am not reading or writing or studying, I am homesick. Yes, I am homesick. But away with all this. I fear I have distressed you already. Tell Papa that I am studying Cicero, and that I have got to the 4th book of Virgil." When he was 10 years old, his family relocated to the village of Putney, Vermont, within easy communication of his new school, Brattleboro Academy, where John would complete his preparation for college. Endowed with a ruddy, freckled complexion and a bright red shock of hair, John Humphrey early gave signs of a passionate nature to match. A friend from his Brattleboro days referred to him as inclined to give way a little too much to the libido corporis. Just which lusts of the body the young boy had a particular weakness for is not divulged in the friend's letter. It is clear from his diaries that, by the time John Humphrey had entered Dartmouth College as a freshman in 1826, a partiality for the ladies was chief among them. This journal, begun at the age of 18 in 1829, provides glimpses of a teenager struggling with paralyzing shyness in his relations with the opposite sex. He was further hampered by the conviction that his red hair and freckles rendered him physically repulsive. John Humphrey compared himself to the Black Dwarf in the Walter Scott romance of the same name, a tortured, loveless figure whose deformed body and long, matted red hair forced him to sequester himself in the forest as a hermit. The young collegian's interactions with women were accordingly not short of torture. In one diary entry, he berates himself. "Oh, for a brazen front and nerves of steel! I swear by Jove I will be impudent. So unreasonable and excessive is my bashfulness that I fully believe I could face a battery of cannon with less trepidation than I could a roomful of ladies with whom I was unacquainted." Despite his best resolutions, John Humphrey continued to experience acute anxiety and embarrassment in social situations. Once, at a wedding party, he mistook the name of a lady he was introducing to a company of gentlemen. He recorded afterward that he could feel his cheek burn with shame upon recollecting the scornful smile that passed over the countenance of a certain lady, who, sitting near, overheard his blunder. A sense of intense social shame and self-loathing, especially when he felt himself caught in the gaze of the opposite sex, was one of the strongest currents in young Noyes's emotional life. At one point, he had even resigned himself to remaining unmarried and becoming a philosopher, renouncing the physical world for the life of the mind. Yet John Humphrey's social fortunes took a turn for the better upon graduation from Dartmouth. In 1830, when he entered into training as a lawyer at his brother-in-law Larkin Mead's practice in Chesterfield, New Hampshire, John Humphrey unexpectedly found himself at the center of a robust social scene. He and his classmate Put, also an intern in Mead's practice, were catapulted into the enviable position of being the only two college graduates of a crew of 80 or 90 young men and women attending a nearby school. Bewitched by his female companions,